Hello, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our virtual author story time with Theresa Hickman. I'm so excited, also known as Mother Dove. We are going to be talking about her book, about her background, what inspired her to write her story, and we're also going to be blessed to have a live reading. I'm going to share just a little bit about this platform and why we started even doing these virtual story times, and then we'll get right into our conversation. So I'm Jarima Gorham. I'm the founder, executive director of Burst Into Books. And as a mother, educator myself, I know that the power of reading and just being able to see yourselves in books is so amazing, right? Being a mother, like I said, a lot of times we go to the library and we're trying to find books to even add to our own home library. I'm very big about representation and what is the theme and message in those books. And so when I started Birth into Books, I wanted to have a platform, whether in person or virtual, where I can introduce families to authors. I can introduce them to additional stories that they should know about, and just being able to connect one-on-one with an author, because a lot of times you can get the book and love it, but you don't know the inspiration behind it. And people like to know like the background. And so I just thought this would be a really cool way to do that. So today we are going to have the opportunity to talk to Miss Theresa Hickman, who is going to share with us her background and what inspired her to become an author herself. And then if you are watching live, as I see people are coming in, feel free to put comments in the chat because I'll be able to show them live. And if you have a question, don't hesitate to ask that as well. So first, hello, Theresa. How are you?
Hi, Jarima. How are you? Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, I am awesome. I'm so excited to have you here. I'm always so happy to see you. Your spirit is just amazing. And so
Thank
I
you.
hope that those who are watching can feel that as well. I want to jump right into your background because
Okay.
I think a lot of times when we hear stories or see stories, we can be surprised if like the background is what inspired that book to come to be, right? So I would love for you just to share a little bit about who you are with those who are watching.
Yes. So for those of you who do not know, I am Theresa Hickman, aka Mother Dove. I am an educator. I am an author. I'm an entrepreneur, a wife, a dog mom. I have many, many, many hats, you guys. And what inspired me to become an author? What is the background story behind my book? Right. As a little girl myself, I'm a little lady. I'm about 4'9", and I struggle sometimes with just believing, right, and knowing that I could do things, right. And I always had a backing behind my parents or my teachers or my siblings who always like, girl, no, you could do it. All you have to do is try. And so that's pretty much what inspired me to write this book, my own story, but then also because I see so many kids today. As an educator, I see so many kids just giving up on themselves, not wanting to try, not even putting any effort into doing things. And I'm like, I got to
Mhm.
change that narrative. I got to change their mindsets. I got to make sure that they know that they can do anything. And so that's pretty much what inspired, me to write this book.
Love it. So I need to know the background behind Mother Dove. Where did you get that name from?
So I was always called Mother Teresa growing up, right?
Oh,
I always called Mother Teresa just because of my spirit and my motherly nature, just always wanting to support people, always being around kids. Every time there was an opportunity, people were like, "You want to keep them?" Okay, sure, yeah, because I love children, right? And so that's kind of where the mother piece came in, right? And then the dove piece, people always try to confuse it because I am a member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. That is not why I chose dove. I
mm-hmm.
chose dove because of what doves mean. They mean serenity, they mean peace and love and joy, and that's the type of person that I like to be. That's the type of person I am, and I like to bring so much happiness into the world. And so putting the mother and the dove together just makes sense to
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
It makes sense to me too. I need to know the story.
so that's why.
hmm And as you just hinted to, it can somehow connect to other areas, but really this is the reason behind that name. And so you already gave us the insight that you are a teacher, all these different things that you are connected to, entrepreneurship, mentor, as we heard. So what led you to say, I'm going to write a book? Like I heard your story of, really wanting to, inspire kids, but
Mhm.
there's so many ways you could do that, right? You could start an after school program. You could, do all these other initiatives, but what led you in this like invention to become an author?
Honestly, just wanting to tell a story. I feel like I have so many things to bring to the world. And this was one way in which I was able to do it, right? I
Mhm.
wrote my book back in 2017, and many people don't know that. Like, the book was written back in 2017, but it didn't come out until 2021. And the
Hmm.
reason for that, in which I believe God told me, not then, but now. During the time in which it was the pandemic,
Yep.
and a lot of kids were out of school and giving up on themselves when it came to their work because we were virtual, right? It was just so much going on that God was like, this is the time you have to start inspiring them now. And so that's where that shift came, like, okay, I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna say yes.
Yep.
Let me do what he is telling me to do. Let me move now. And so that's when I became an author. But the joy in wanting to writing and telling a story was way long ago. Yeah.
Mhm. So you have this message that was told to you 4 years prior to becoming a published book. And so
Mhm.
I know that even in having a story and getting it to publication is this journey in itself, right? And so what was for you that process? Like what was your writing process? How did you land an editor, publisher? Like how did you get, because many people have a story, but they don't necessarily know the steps to take in order
Right.
to get it to, to someone's hands. So how did you figure out all of those things?
Definitely it's a process. It's a learning process for sure. Like, definitely you have to first write your manuscript. If
Mm,
you don't write it down, then it's not going to come to life. If you don't actually put it on paper, then it's not going to come to life. So you have to write it down. That's the first step for one, right? And then after that, how did I find my editor? It was honestly, I found friends. I found like a couple of my girlfriends who were literacy majors, English
mhm.
majors. Like, that's how I found an illustrator. But I know you can pay people, you can give them, this amount of money or that amount of money. But there are so many people in your own circle. You just got to ask
Yeah.
to help you to edit your book. And then I went out to different, teacher friends who support me, who love me, and they was like, let me read it. And yeah, please, like,
Yeah.
why not? Just so that you won't have those errors, right? And then after that, this is the hardest part. I'm not even gonna lie. Finding an illustrator.
Because the visual representation matters, man.
Yes, yes. You have to be very strategic about who you allow to take your book, your message, your story, and bring it to life,
Yep.
right? And so I went through several illustrators. I did. A lot of people just go with the first person they like. And I did that a couple of times. And I was like, yeah, I'm not publishing that. You know what I'm saying? Not because they wasn't good, but Terry, for me, she she's going to be bigger than what she is right now, and I
Mhm.
need the world to see her for who I see her as, and I needed somebody who was going to make her come to life just as I believe she is. To me, she's a real person. I don't know if people follow me on social media, but I literally put quotations around what she's saying, not me, what she is saying. And so I had to do that. And then you just pick your color, you pick your shape, your size, all of that stuff becomes a little bit more easier. But the hardest part, I would say, is finding the illustrator.
So then once you found your illustrator and you got the editing done because you have an amazing community that want to see this book come to life, what was publication? What made you say, okay, I have this manuscript. I'm going to go the self-published route, right? Because then you have people who take their manuscripts to agencies and try to get it the traditional route. What
Mhm.
made you decide that you wanted to publish yourself?
What made me decide I wanted to publish myself? Just wanting to have, for real, just keeping that ownership. of my story, you know. Now I'm not to that's not to say that I won't ever go to a publishing route, right?
Mhm.
Not saying that at all, but I think, you know, this is my baby and nobody knows it like me. And
Mm.
nobody's going to honestly protect it like me, right? And so I didn't want to hand over so much of my creation to someone else. And so that's why I was like, no, I'm going to self-publish.
Mhm.
I have to make sure that I have all the rights and everything in order before I go that route, just to be honest, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, which is totally fine, right? Because again, there have been countless of different authors that I've met who are some of our big names. They're like, my first 2 or 3 books were self-published, right? And then eventually, or there's some people who have thriving careers, their whole career being self-published. So, and they'll create their own publishing house. And so I think everyone has their own journey, their own way of getting their stories out. And I just think it's important that people know that there's options,
Yeah,
because if you don't have, you may be the connects to or the funds to have someone else promote it. It's like, hey, well, this is another option and route.
yes.
I wanted to make sure I pull up the question. So April Lumberg is on here,
Hi, April.
and she asks, "What was it like to hold your book in your hands for the first time?"
Oh, honestly, I wanted to cry. I can't remember if I did cry or not. I don't want to tell a story, so I don't know if I did or did not cry, but I do remember just that overwhelming feeling, right? Like I did that. Like this is mine, right? To actually hold and say,
Mm,
yeah, this feels really good to even have another additional title to your name,
yep,
right? You know, like I can literally tell people I am an author, you
yep,
know,
yeah.
and to be able to say that is just such a good feeling. And so, yeah, April, it's so good to hear from you.
And she just asked another great question. But I'm gonna hold it till we get close to the reading, because I think it's a perfect introduction to you doing your live reading.
Okay.
So as we're talking about this book and holding it, you're talking about how particular you were about the illustrations. I think something that people are also just as particular about is the title, right? And the book cover. Because we could talk about the illustrations inside, but just like a music album or a movie, promotion, what's on the front is what's going to draw people in. And then also the name is what's going to get people's attention. So, what made you land on your title, and then who and how the book cover would be designed?
Absolutely. The title, the book was actually titled I Can back
Mm,
in 2017. And the shift came around COVID time, you
mm-hmm,
know, and the message and like wanting kids, wanting not just children, but even adults. Like sometimes we know that we can, but we don't even try. And I said, no, we got to do dot, dot, dot. Just try.
mm,
I want people to hear that. When they say those words, I want them to use it as an affirmation. I
mm,
want them to tell themselves, I can. All I have to do is just try. And so that's what kind of led to the title. It changed over time. I'm telling you, like I went through this whole process. I think I even had another name, like I had a comma instead of the dot dot dot. I didn't have the exclamation, like it was so many things that I did during the process, right? But God was like, "Yep, that's the one," and that's
mhm.
what I went with. Now, as far as the book cover, I have to give all that credit to my illustrator. He wouldn't even show me like the different pages or tell me like to pick throughout the process of illustrating, right? His name is Tyrus Gaucher, for those of you who do
Mhm,
not
mhm.
know. He is amazing, and I
Yep.
really do appreciate the hard work and dedication that he put in my book. So shout out to Tyrus. He chose the cover. He After finishing the book, he was like, "Yep, this is the one. This is the one that is going to stand out and let people know Terry did that."
Mhm, mhm,
I don't
mhm.
know, when you guys get a chance, when I do my reading, you'll see the cover of the book, and Oh, it's right there on my screen.
Yeah, we can see it a little bit in the back.
A little bit on my background. Yeah, yeah. He chose it, and when he sent it over to me, I was like, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, Tyrus, he's awesome. I've seen his work in so many spaces, and I mean, he does an amazing job. I think of really connecting to what the author wants to have displayed in their book, and so
Yeah,
great choice, great
yeah.
choice. So our next piece is going to be you doing a live reading. However, before we do it, I do want to bring up April's second question because I think it goes perfect with the book. So her
Okay.
question was, what were some of the things you were nervous to try when you were younger?
Oh. So as you guys can see, you can see on the screen, Terry's playing basketball. I'm a little lady, and I played basketball when I was a little girl. I also coach now, so it kind of goes hand in hand. The whole backstory, because she is me as a little girl. So it was that. Another thing that I used to be afraid to try was just getting out in front, right? Raising my hand to read in school, or to perform. I'm a singer too, and sometimes I was a little hesitant, a little scared, even though I actually am a really good singer, right? But it was when I was young, it was tough. It was a little scary, having those little butterflies in my belly, right? Not really wanting to just try to explore new things. But I
Mhm.
tell you, my parents, they never, said no. Like, they put me in everything that I wanted to try, because they like, if you don't try, you never know if you can or you cannot, right?
Yep.
And so that's kind of a few things that I remember me struggling with. And I was always the shortest kid in the classroom, right? Always. And not to say that that's a bad thing, because I love being short. I do. But it was just sometimes a little, I don't know, people kind of didn't appreciate it as much. But I learned to love it as I. Mm-hmm.
Well, I do want to highlight something that you said. I think that's so amazing. My parents were similar in that me and my brother, whatever we wanted to try, they would put us in, even if it was just we did it for a year. And it was some things that stuck. And I think that that's so important. And I do the same with my son. Sometimes we look like at our kids as if they should just know what they like and what they don't like. And if they try something and don't like that was waste of money, that was wasting this, whatever. But actually, that's what the beauty of exploration is, right? Kids figuring out what's their thing. And I mean, I can just remember growing up, my parents, like, I did tap dancing for a year, then we did gymnastics, and then I did this, and then bowling, and then that stuck, right? And then
Mhm,
for my brother, for him it was the arts and just being able to try out different types of arts. And he
mhm.
also played sports, but then he did football one summer and was like, I don't want to do that anymore. I mean, I think we got to be able to allow our kids to understand that they have options
Yeah,
and that there's nothing wrong with you finding one thing and then being also in love with something else. I think that that's another narrative that kids feel like they get pigeonholed, like you're just an athlete,
right.
right? Or you're just an artist, or you're just this. But it's like, no, allow them to try all these options and they'll be able to really see the gifts God gave them. And you don't know what's gonna get their attention. You might be like, oh, they hate school. They go to this one thing and now they fall in love with it and everything else comes together, right? So I love that that was a message you heard a lot as a child.
Yes, yes. I want to just point this out. I even tried cheerleading. Yeah, that was not my thing. I was more of a tomboy than the girly girl, so the pom
Look,
pom.
I did cheerleader one year too, and I was like, nah, I'm actually gonna play basketball. I like to dance, and I think that's the thing too, because I mean, I did arts. I love the arts, and I love to dance. And I think sometimes, when you're in those situations, you're like, oh, if I like to dance, maybe I like this too. And then sometimes, like, no, I actually just like this part of it. And so I think kids need to be able to know that, right? They need to know, like, it's different, and then I just got to find what's the thing for me. So that's really funny. Well, cool. So now this time, you all, we're going to do our live reading, which I absolutely love. Theresa is going to read her book for us. Also, at the bottom, I'm going to have where you can purchase her book. So please, as she's reading, support. Get this added to your classrooms, added to your home library, gift it to a child. I think every child needs to hear the power of I can do it, I can try, and be able to encourage them with it. And so at this time, we're going to give her the complete floor and she's going to share her story. And then after, if you have any more questions or comments, please continue to put them in the chat. But this time, we're going to give it over to Theresa.
Thank you. I am going to go ahead and share my screen for everybody just so that you guys can truly see the story, okay? This is I Can Just Try by Theresa Smith Hickman, illustrated by Tyrus Gaucher. If I was doing it in person with the kids, I always tell them this is the front cover, this is the back cover, and this is the spine that holds our pages together, right? All right, here we go. I Can Just Try. There we go. Okay. In a big city, there lived a little girl named Terry. She was afraid to try new things because she thought, I am just too little. Terry's mother would say, Terry, go down the slide. Terry, let's play basketball. Terry, do you want to bake a cake with me? Terry, just try. But Terry would say, no, I can't. Terry would always notice the other children her age trying new things like jumping rope, climbing trees, and playing on the monkey bars in the park. But they were taller than her. Terry did not try because she thought, I can't. I am just too little. On her first day of kindergarten, Terry was scared to go to school. She said to her mom, all the children will laugh at me. I will not have any friends. I don't want to go. Baby girl, it will be just fine, her mother said as they drove to school. As Terry entered the classroom, she was nervous. She sat in the back and stayed very quiet. During recess, Terry sat at the table coloring while her classmates had fun playing. One of the children asked Terry, do you want to play? Terry said, no thanks, I can't. Terry sat at the table coloring each day for the first week of school. The following Monday, Terry went back to school. She sat alone as the other children played. Terry's teacher, Mrs. Johnson, asked, why aren't you playing with the other children, Terry? Is everything all right? Terry said, I can't, cried Terry. I am just too little and I can't do anything. Mrs. Johnson could not believe her ears. Are you saying you cannot play because you are short? Yes, said Terry. At that moment, Mrs. Johnson had an idea. She took Terry to see Ariel, a student in the first grade. Ariel was in Mrs. Johnson's class last year. She too was afraid of going to school in kindergarten. She was also the shortest kid in her class. Ariel thought she could not try new things because she was too little. Ariel, what must we do to learn something new? Asked Mrs. Johnson. We have to try and try, Ariel answered. If we just try, we will be able to do anything. Terry heard Ariel, but she was still unsure of herself. She said, I can't. I am just too little. Come, girls, let's take a walk to the gymnasium, said Mrs. Johnson, taking out different toys for the girls to play with. Mrs. Johnson suggested, let's play a game. Ariel handed Terry a basketball, saying, here, shoot it. Terry was afraid and she refused to hold the ball. Ariel whispered, remember, you can do anything if you try, so shoot it. Terry then took the ball in her hands and said, okay. She told herself, just try, Terry. Terry shot the ball and missed the basket. Bunk. She tried again and she still did not make it. Ariel yelled, a little higher, Terry. You can do it. But Terry felt defeated. An ounce of courage told her not to give up, so she attempted again. Just before the dismissal bell rang, Terry shot the ball. Swoosh. Before she could close her eyes, the ball had gone into the basket. Terry was so surprised. Ariel jumped in the air screaming, you did it! Mrs. Johnson said with excitement, you did it, Terry! I did it! I can! Full of happiness, Terry ran towards the dismissal door to share the great news with her mom. With joy in her eyes, Terry said, I did it! I did it! I can! I can! All I had to do was just try. And that's the end of our story. Thank you.
We love it. We love it.
So much.
Oh, that's so awesome. That is so awesome. So, I mean, this is just a question that came to mind. So, what are some like memorable moments you have from like reading this story to young people, in regards to the message that you are trying to get out there?
Oh my goodness. There are so many. Like, I love when little kids tell me, I just love that book. I
Yeah.
remember when I didn't try, but Terry, like they literally tell me her name, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I want. I want them to use her and to say, this my friend, and she helped me. But Terry said, all I had to do is just try, right? I remember um, this one little girl's mom, like days after reading, she saw me and she told me, my baby was like, I couldn't do it until I remembered the book. And Terry said, all I had to do was try, mommy. So I tried.
Mm.
That's what I like to hear. And
Yeah.
another parent, I was at a reading and she had the book already and she heard that I was going to be at an event. So she came. She said, my baby does not put this book down. And this was a little boy, and that's another message that it's not about just being a little girl, because most people see my book and they're like, oh, that's a girl book. No, it's
Mm-hmm.
a message behind the book.
Yep.
She's a little black girl because I'm a black girl, so that's kind of where she came from. But the message behind the book is so much bigger than just her being a little girl. It's about children in general. making sure that they know that they can do it. And so when she told me that this little black baby, this little black boy holds like sleeps with the book,
Mm,
ears to my eyes, I was like, yes, yes. And of course I had to give me a picture with him.
exactly.
And then there's just been so many other memories and like going to different events. And not only does the kids remember, but the adults too.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a message for everybody.
Yeah,
Yep.
I was at an event because I do live not just live readings but live presentations, speaking engagements, right? Because I like to make sure that there's a message behind my speaking engagements, and they're not for the kids. It's a speaking engagement for the adults, the teachers, right? And so I was at an event, and this one lady came to me, and she's like, this book helped me. Like I was afraid to go after something, and your message is telling me like to just do it. It's okay. Like you may fall, you may stumble a little bit, just like Terry did in the book. She didn't get
Hmm.
it first,
Hmm.
but she kept going. She kept trying. And if you do that, your dreams can and will come true. You just got to believe that first, you know.
Yep.
So
And I think to your point, as we get older, and it's so funny because I recently was watching a video and they were talking about just people who really found their purpose and really started doing that stuff in their later parts of their lives, right? And a lot of times adults can feel like, oh, my time has passed. It's just about helping the next generation. But there are so many adults who have dreams and aspirations and things that they want to do. You know, we talk about bucket lists and all these things, and we can have this idea of like our time has passed. And so to that point, I think it's definitely an applicable message for adults that there is never an expiration on when you can try something, right? Like you can always try, you can always reinvent, you can always start over. And I think that that is so great that this message is not just for kids but for adults as well.
yeah, I was scrolling through Facebook, and there was like I think she was like 82. This woman like just literally just got her diploma, her college.
Mm,
You know, like, and I love to see stories like that. I love to see people actually going out for what it is that they want, what it is that they believe, and knowing that the sky is not just the limit. Like, you can go beyond that and
yep.
so much more. And that's what we have to, if we do that as a collective unit and continue to lift and build each other up, like, this world will be so much better, so much greater. There's nothing that we cannot do. All we have to do is
Let's try.
that's
Well,
it.
I'm so excited. So the comment I just put at the bottom. So Marquita Nicole is actually a friend that I've known since I want to say kindergarten, a
Okay.
long time, and she's just such a beautiful person. And she said her and her daughter were just listening to your live reading. And thank you so much for sharing. My daughter and I enjoyed the message from the story. So thank you. Marquita is also an educator. So I think this is just awesome. As we were talking earlier, that's Theresa's background. This is amazing book to have in your classroom libraries. I think amazing book to have at home. And so please, please, we're gonna say it again at the end how you can get your book. But I think that again, it's a perfect message for all. So you kind of hinted to this earlier. So I want to make sure we don't bypass what's next because you said this is just the beginning. I'm like, oh, what else does she have playing with Terry and this whole movement? So
Oh my goodness. So Terry is going to be a series. Like
mm,
I can't give the names and everything like that, but she has several books. I have already written several books that will be coming out. So please stay tuned for her. She is going to be big. I also want her to either be on Disney or Nickelodeon, like something. She's going to be a character that they
let's
can
do it now. Let's do it.
wide. You know, I want her to be in a doll form where kids can actually carry her around. Like, there's so many things that I have, so many visions that I have for her. She's amazing. Look at her. She's so pretty.
Yes.
She's so pretty, and her message and her warmth and who she is I want her to continue to inspire more girls and boys just like her.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So I want, because we've talked about just like inspiration, and I know we are in April, which is National Poetry Month. We also just got done with Women's History Month. There's so many things. I love to have a question where we can, kind of get inside of your head. And so I would love to know, as we come to the end, who is a woman who has impacted your life?
Is this a woman that I know personally, or is this a woman?
Whatever came to your mind when I asked that question.
Well, of course, there are so many, right? There are so many women in my life that have just truly made a huge impact and who have inspired me to be the person that I am today. But in all honesty, like, if I can't just name one, so I have to name two, okay?
That's fine. That's fine.
All honesty, like, I have to give so much credit to both my mother and my sister. My
Mm,
sister Fawn and my mother name is Olintha. And when I tell you just the women who they are, the how nurturing they are, how supportive they are, how driven they are, like, I am who I am because of them. I am, like I said, my mom birthed me, but my sister kind of raised me in a sense. Of course, my mama was there, but like she's a lot older. I'm not gonna get my sister's age, but she's much older than me, right? And so, I grew up like as her little daughter in a sense, right? And yeah, my mother and my sister. I
I
could go
love
on
it.
about them. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it matters to hear that, because a lot of times as people are building, and I mean, I can even say the same as for me, like a lot of the work that I do is because I know I have such a strong village, right? And I might have the opportunity to talk about my work and be there and stuff, but if it wasn't like the late night calls to my mom or, my brother there to help me set up, and, all these different things that, allow us to be able to be great. And so I think that as people are watching this and you're an aspiring author, or you want to do and try something, do know that we don't do this work alone, right? We do this work in community, as a village, just supporting one another. And just thank you for sharing that. I hope your mom and sister get to hear that. And I'm sure you tell them that often. But I think that it's important for people to know that a lot of what we see is because of a lot of people pouring into you as well.
I did want to point out, because you did say like this is a community effort, and have been so many women, so many men in my life who have encouraged me to get me where I am today. I actually highlighted a couple of my teachers who made an
Mm,
impact to me inside of my book. You always have that one page where you dedicate the book, and I dedicated my book to some former teachers
mm,
throughout, both elementary and high school years. So,
that's awesome. So, closing thoughts. Is there anything that, and, if anyone wants to, whether they watch this later or, they've been with us this whole time, because we do have people watching. So, thank you. If you are watching now, I would just ask that you share it on your page. It is available on YouTube and Facebook, and we'll be resharing it. But again, are there any closing thoughts that you would want us to walk away from this conversation in regards to your work, or just the message overall?
I would have to say closing thoughts would be kind,
Mm.
love on people, support people, don't tear them down. And of course, always remember, you can do anything if you just try. Okay.
I love it. Well, thank you, Theresa. This has been awesome. As I said, I knew it would be. I'm putting at the bottom our mailing list. So if you go to versatibooks.org, you'll be able to join our mailing list. And whenever we're doing these talks and other events, you will stay up to date. I have to make sure, of course, before we end, that you allow everyone to know how they can continue to follow you, how they can get a copy of your book. Now that we know that you are a speaker to not only the children and the adults, what does that look like? And that's how we'll end out today.
Yes, of course. So I am available on all social media platforms. I'm not the greatest on TikTok, but I'm on there.
You like, I'm on there, girl. Me either. Don't even get started on TikTok.
On all social media platforms at Mother Doves Academy. Okay, Mother Doves Academy is my tagline. You can also follow me on LinkedIn as Theresa Smith Hickman. You can also go to my website, Mother Doves Kids. That's KIDS with an S.com, motherdoveskids.com. And then please, yes, book me for story time with Mother Dove, or you can book a speaking engagement with me if it's for adults, if it's for children. I mean, children and teachers. I'm available, y'all. I'm out here. Yes,
She said, I'm out of here.
Academy, Mother Dove's Academy. Don't forget.
I love it. So thank you all who've been watching. Again, share this because I believe that more people in your circle need to learn about Theresa and her work and her message. And again, it's a message for all ages. I hope that you enjoy the rest of this evening. And until next time, take care.
Bye.
Bye.